Welcome to episode 50 of Bills by the Numbers, where we let the stats tell you where the Bills are at. We're brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Some interesting additions in recent weeks at receiver for the Bills. What does it mean for Buffalo's passing game down the stretch? And can Buffalo fix their drop problem? NFL Network's Mike Giardi joins us to discuss how the Bills' offense has changed from last season. Get your chin straps ready, people! Glad you could slide on in here at Bills by the Numbers. Bills Wall of Fame Steve Tasker, Bills Insider Chris Brown with you as always. And there have been some interesting developments the past few weeks with the Bills and their receiving core. John Brown added to the practice squad 3 weeks ago. Cole Beasley added this week, as the Bills' receiving contingent has not been at full strength for much of the season. Jake Kumerow, Jamison Crowder, still on IR. But it hasn't been availability that's been the main issue. It's execution. What do those moves say to you, Mr. Tasker?
I think there's a couple of things in this. I like both moves because they're two guys that have a lot of experience in this offense and a lot of history and water under the bridge with Josh Allen throwing them the football. They're easier to reacclimate as veteran players and guys who have been in this system. So when you're in a position where the Bills are right now, where let's face it, this is a Super Bowl expectation team. I mean, they're playing well. They're the number one seed, and they've been on the doorstep for a couple of years. It's time for them to push it over. If somebody goes down, they need a plug-and-play player. Somebody who – there may be a drop-off in athletic ability, but there won't be a mental drop-off. These guys are able to go in there, call a play, run any play you can call, and even if they don't win, you don't have somebody out there who doesn't know what they're doing. And also, on the other hand as well, and you mentioned this in the open – it's competition. The players on the team now know these guys. They'll come in and they'll know how to compete on the practice field. The coaching staff trusts them. The quarterback trusts them. And they add a level of credibility to a young group who has struggled with drops this year.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to that in just a second. But, yeah, I think you want to have options to turn to at the most important time of the season, the playoffs. Getting people like John Brown and Cole Beasley in the fold now gives them proper on-ramping in the event that you do need it. But I do tend to think this is also shooting the warning flare gun up in the air to the receiving core on the active roster to say, hey, guys, we've been patient. You're not getting it done right now, and we're in the stretch run here. Get it together and fast, or we're going to tap those guys on the shoulder on the practice squad and say, go play 50 snaps for us on offense. That's what's going to happen because we've seen it happen before here under Sean McDermott at other positions. Sean McDermott will not hesitate to sit somebody down for a week if what they see in practice and in games over the course of several weeks doesn't measure up to the standard, whatever the standard might be at whatever position. And the standard is clearly higher than where the Bills sit right now at the receiver position. The Bills, Steve, according to Pro Football Reference, lead the league in drop passes with 32 and are tied for second in the league in drop rate with Green Bay at 7.5%. While I'll be the first to say not all of Josh Allen's throws have been on the money, more often than not he is. And these stats, though somewhat subjective, demonstrate that just not enough plays are being made in the passing game to help keep the offense on the field. We've watched the Bills' point total decrease each of the past 4 weeks, 31, 28, 24, 20 in their last win over the Jets. Do you believe adding Brown and Beasley was an act indicating that the coaching staff decided it's going to get better or it's got to get better and we're going to do it with veteran guys that have done it before?
I think this coaching staff believes the guys they've got on the roster can do it, but there's no question that it's going to motivate them to play better. Whenever you bring new guys in, particularly proven guys, whether they're long in the tooth or not, whether they're veteran guys. I mean, Cole Beasley was retired a week ago. Now he's back. It does say something about how the coaches feel about the guys in the room. Also, and like I said, there is something about having an insurance policy you can trust. And with Jake Kumerow and Jamison Crowder being off the shelf because of injuries, Cole Beasley and John Brown are two logical solutions to those absences. But I do, and it makes a lot of sense in that, just in that regard alone. But I do believe there's something a little extra in those signings as well.
Right. When John Brown was brought here a few weeks ago, I kind of viewed it as somewhat of a stopgap measure because you're still waiting on Crowder in the hopes that he can come back, and there are signs that that may in fact happen before the regular season's over, as he's training on the side at practice the last couple of weeks. And then you still don't have Kumerow. So I said, okay, John Brown is kind of a stopgap measure, veteran player that you can trust in the absence of veteran players like Kumerow and Jamison Crowder. Maybe you don't want to put too much on Shakir, and for whatever reason, maybe you give John Brown some snaps, and they have each of the last 2 weeks as a practice squad elevation. The Cole Beasley thing now, this strikes me as more of a low-level DEFCON move. Like, we're not at DEFCON 1, which is complete and utter end-of-the-world situation. You might be at DEFCON 5, though, with the point production going down precipitously the last 4 weeks, the drop passes still prevalent, and prevalent even last week in the win over the Jets. I see the Cole Beasley thing as maybe something a little bit more, because what they expected to get out of the slot receiver position or from a proven number two or a guy they thought could be a number two in Gabe Davis, it flat out hasn't materialized. So do you try to get some of that back and put Beasley on the field? We'll have to wait and see.
Well,
It's hard to know what their true motivations are, but that's my suspicion.
If Beasley's on the field, it's not because Gabe Davis isn't satisfactory. If John Brown's on the field, it is. John Brown is not a slot, and Cole Beasley is not a number two. Cole Beasley's a slot guy.
Okay.
So I think John Brown was brought in because of Gabe Davis, if you're looking at those roles, and Beasley was brought in because of Isaiah McKenzie or Khalil Shakir.
Okay, so now I think we're arguing semantics here more than anything else, because when I was saying number two, I guess I was envisioning more a guy to play a second role behind Diggs, which is what Beasley was, even though he lined up in the slot. He was the second most targeted guy. He was the second most productive guy in terms of yards and catches and targets, for that matter. And I think they thought, well, we'll just shift that target and volume role to Gabe Davis, even though he plays a different position. That has not happened. And then you come back inside to the slot. So you're arguing John Brown equals Gabe Davis, Cole Beasley equals Isaiah McKenzie. I was looking more at it in terms of Diggs is your number one target guy. We thought Davis could be the number two target guy. He's not. Let's bring the guy who used to be back in, and that's Beasley.
Yeah. Here's the thing that jumps out to me in all of this. In this last game that the Bills won against the Jets, in the game before that in New England, John Brown got on the field. If a guy is on the field, he's the best option they think they've got. If he's on the field, they think he can contribute, that there's nobody else on the bench who's going to contribute better than he's going to contribute, even if it's on one play.
Okay.
That shouts.
Okay, so let's take that a step further then. The most important question going forward, can the Bills' passing game recapture the past with Brown and Beasley, who are now almost 33 and 34 years old?
Yeah, I mean, you're not asking John Brown and Cole Beasley to come in and play 100% of the offensive snaps for the last month of the regular season through the playoffs. You're looking for spot duty from them, at least off the get-go, like you have gotten from John Brown. He's been elevated. He hasn't gotten very many snaps, but they've acclimated him slowly. His role may increase, but you can look for Cole Beasley to do the same thing. He'll get acclimated, perhaps get elevated to get game day ready, maybe activated, not even play, or elevated to the roster, not even play, be active for the game, and then active and play a couple of plays, that kind of thing. The same thing we've seen with other players who got on the field. It's like James Cook and his escalated role. You can look for that, I think, best case scenario. I think at the very least, this is a team that doesn't want to go down the road where, for instance, like if a guy like last year, 2 years ago, when Cole Beasley broke his leg and had to finish the game with a broken leg or finish the season with a broken leg, they don't want that to happen to Khalil Shakir or Isaiah McKenzie or Gabe Davis or Steph Diggs and have nobody there who's capable in the offense. That's, I think, job one. But yes, there's no doubt I think this coaching staff and Brandon Beane as well are looking for answers to what they see as a group of players who are not producing the way they thought they were going to produce, or who have produced that way in the past or early in the season. Yeah. That's a problem.
I see it right now in terms of roles for those two, kind of similar to a relief pitcher situation in baseball. You're calling those guys in to play a role in a game. As you pointed out, maybe it's 15, 20 snaps for John Brown. Maybe it's 15, 20 snaps for Cole Beasley. And you have a package of plays in which they are part of the personnel grouping. My curiosity, though, goes here. Let's just say, hypothetically, Brown and Beasley are dressed. They each play 20 snaps. They're productive. They score a touchdown. They catch 3 balls to move the sticks in the span of a game. Does the role increase? And does it go from there? And now they're in shape. Do they completely supplant somebody at one of those positions? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, despite their age, because as you pointed out, we are at the end of the season. They don't have to play 17 games for you now. They only have to play 4 regular season games and hopefully 4 playoff games, or 3 if you get the number 1 seed.
Right.
So you're talking about half a season at the most.
Right.
I think a 33 or a 34-year-old, if they're in proper shape, can give you that, especially if you're on-ramping them here these last 4 weeks of the regular season to where you might be able to get a little bit more out of those guys. And
well, we've seen it happen. We saw it with the LA Rams last year when they picked up OBJ and they got a little boost from him.
And Von Miller, for that matter.
And Von Miller as well. I think one of the things this might speak to that we haven't really discussed too much is it may be a signal as to how likely it is that Jake Kumerow or Jamison Crowder gets ready. Kumerow's a different animal than any of the guys we're talking about. He's a special teams guy who comes in also on plays. He'll play a handful of snaps at least offensively when he's active as a blocking wide receiver, and he'll catch an occasional pass. He'll have those games where he'll go for a month without catching a pass, and then he'll have 2 catches in a game or 3 catches in a game. That's kind of his role. But this may be because of Cole Beasley and John Brown's experience in the offense. It may be a signal that they're not as confident that Jamison Crowder is going to be able to come back and contribute. And even if Jamison Crowder comes back, Cole Beasley and John Brown have more experience in this offense than he does now anyway, because he's been standing around watching for 3 months. Mm-hmm. So Crowder may be somebody who they like, but who's been injured so much they haven't even seen him play very much in the eye. He was hurt in week 2 or week 3, I think. They may not. He still may be a relatively unknown commodity in this offense. So I think it may have to do with that, with Kumerow and Crowder, their availability coming down the stretch, and just having an extra layer of insurance, as it does with the discontent with Khalil Shakir or Isaiah McKenzie or Gabe Davis. So we'll have to watch and see that and see how it goes. But I know this: they're in the building, and if they earn reps on the field, this staff is going to give it to them. If you earn it, you get it.
Hey.
And if you unearn it, you get sat down. So that's always in the air in that locker room. I think it's been an incredibly stable and dependable part of this coaching staff's philosophy. And it keeps everybody on the roster, from Josh Allen all the way down to, name it, Reed Ferguson, long snapper. Everybody stays motivated
and on edge
to keep getting it. So if they're in the building, they have a chance to earn some playing time, and they're here for a reason. What all those reasons are and what the possibilities are, I think, remain to be seen, at least for all of us. And I think even for the coaching staff and Brandon Beane, they've got a plan, but I think some of that plan is a just-in-case plan.
Somewhat insurance policy, and hey, in case of emergency, because you're not getting the production you want, break glass and put them on the field.
I think they're a pilot light.
Yeah.
I think they're a pilot light to make sure everybody stays lit, and knowing that there's somebody in there they don't hesitate to put in.
Mm-hmm. We'll expand on this conversation now with NFL Network's Mike Giardi, who has pointed out some changes in the Bills' offense of late. We address the Buffalo passing game and the offense's attempt to diversify in season now. All right, Mike, you kind of cover the AFC East at large, but for the Bills, yes, they're on a 4-game winning streak, but we've really kind of witnessed their offense take on a little bit of a different identity than the explosive passing game that we've come to get accustomed to the better part of the last 2 seasons. They feel like they need to diversify their offense to be ready to turn to anything come the postseason when they're presumably facing better teams and better defenses. How do you see it, though? Because I think there is in the back of Bills fans' minds just a wee bit of concern like, hey, I'd really like to see that explosive passing game again. Do we still have that?
Well, look, in the first drive of the game against the Jets, right, he has Stephon Diggs on the slant, Carter falls down, and Josh misses him by a mile. If you connect on that pass, it's him versus the safety. That could have been a 70-yard touchdown just like that out of the chute. So sometimes you're just talking about the simple matter of there are plays to be made and they're not making them. To me, a lot of this comes back to, well, twofold, right? Josh's elbow, I think, look, he's throwing in practice, but maybe not throwing as much as he did. Maybe that contributes somewhat to the slow starts. And I think the other thing is it's more about what's happening up front. I mean, it was a jailbreak at times against the Jets on Sunday, but we've seen that now against lesser defenses where they've struggled up front as well. And, obviously Dion had to kick off some rust and he's playing hurt. So, you can probably brush some of that aside, but Spencer Brown on the right side, it's been a struggle now for a while for him. And Roger Saffold as a pass blocker just hasn't really stood up like you would like him to as well. So I don't know if that can be fixed up front or you can do things to mitigate it. But that to me is probably a big reason why the stuff down the field is just not happening now.
Well, there's a couple of other things. One, the Bills, some websites have the Bills leading the league in drops. And secondly, what's your opinion on John Brown being signed a couple of weeks ago to the practice squad and now Cole Beasley back in the building as well? What do those signal to you?
Well, the Beasley thing to me is clear that, I think they feel like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, they haven't just been able to pick up those easy completions. And that's what Cole provided them for all those years, right? And Isaiah's had some big games. As I mentioned on TV yesterday, I mean, you don't play the Lions, you don't beat the Lions without Isaiah making some big plays. And there's been several games where he's been really integral to what you've done, but consistency, that game against the Jets, I mean, a couple balls where he's tightly covered, but they're hitting him in the chest and he's got to be able to make those catches. Those are the catches that Cole made last year. Now, I don't know how quickly Cole can get up and running. Clearly, John Brown came in and was active for that Thursday game against the Patriots immediately. So maybe that's the thought. Maybe Cole's kept himself in good enough shape to be able to do that. But I think clearly they're looking for a little bit more consistency and maybe guys that Josh trusts. And he obviously trusts Beasley for all those years and going back with Brown as well. So maybe there's just some communication stuff that's happening with the wide receivers that they feel like we got to get guys in here who already know it and have performed at a high level for us and that Josh believes in.
Yeah, because it's not just total drops, Mike, which I know Pro Football Reference had the Bills leading the league with 32 total drops. They also had them tied for second in the league with drop rate. So it's a frequency thing as much as it is, it's not just a byproduct of them throwing the ball a lot. It's a rate thing as well. And if you go back to last offseason, most people were of the opinion, we're good at receiver. Maybe you get somebody late in the draft and you'll be fine because, the last time they saw Gabe Davis, he had 4 touchdowns in a divisional playoff game. And the last time they saw Isaiah McKenzie in a starting role, he caught 11 passes for 125 yards and a touchdown and helped beat the New England Patriots when they didn't have Beasley in the lineup because he was out with COVID. So I think going into this season, they really expected those two guys to step up into those number 2 and number 3 roles. And it really just hasn't materialized. There's a part of me that says, well, are John Brown and Cole Beasley insurance plans, or are they something more than that going forward because they've run out of patience with the 2 younger players?
Yeah, I don't think they've – yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think I must have talked all spring. I think being on this program, like Gabe was carrying himself in the spring and the summer as if this guy was about to become a legit number 1 receiver on a team that already had one. And his attitude's been great. He's still doing all the dirty work, right? I mean, he stays on the field a ton. He blocks a lot, but that connection with he and Josh has been inconsistent, and they do need an elevation from him because physically he's got those type of skills. I still see John more as a field stretcher, get him a couple snaps on the field, get Gabe off the field for a couple plays to get him to rest up. But the Cole thing, it's interesting because they clearly felt good about their slot position, right? Because you sign Jamison Crowder, you bring McKenzie back, and then, of course, you draft Khalil Shakir in the 5th round. I think we all like what we saw from Shakir in training camp as well. I think that they have had a tendency to bring rookies on a little bit slowly, and maybe, again, they would know better from looking at film, but maybe there's been some times where Khalil hasn't been where he's supposed to be in the past game, and that's just part of learning scheme and how teams are defending you and how you have to adjust your options. I think that the Crowder injury was unfortunate, although we could say kind of predictable. He's been hurt the last couple of years. I know there's some hope maybe that he's back before the end of the year, although, again, maybe the Beasley signing tells you they're not as hopeful as maybe they were a few weeks ago. But, yeah, I think it's clear that, to me, Cole is more of not the insurance policy. Cole might be here to okay, Isaiah, it's just not happening. And if we can get him up and running, we're going to do it. And maybe McKenzie sees his snaps dramatically reduced. If, again, I don't know what kind of shape Cole's in. I don't know if you guys know, but that'll be the big thing because, we just heard from Leslie Frazier about Tre'Davious White, different situation, the injury, but he's like, you can work out with the trainer all you want. But once you start moving and reacting quickly in a game, it's a whole different story.
But we have seen teams in the past, most notably last year with the Los Angeles Rams. They bring in Von Miller halfway point of the season. They bring in Odell Beckham even later than that, and those guys end up really contributing. Now, certainly OBJ and Vaughn are at a different place than John Brown and Cole Beasley. Nevertheless, having guys that can acclimate and get plugged in, plus have a relationship personally and with that trust factor with a quarterback that's got to play well, it could be just this blanket security because if their receiving core goes down to injury, Kumero's down with injury, Crowder's down with injury, if something happens to one of these other guys, even if it's Khalil Shakir who doesn't take that many snaps, they're thin. They're thin. And so it could be just nothing more than, listen, this is our window. We got to maximize it. We'll get through to the end of the year with John Brown and Cole Beasley and figure something out in the offseason.
Yeah, Steve, I think Brandon would be derelict in his duties if he wasn't doing that, right? This is a team that, as we've talked about now, they believe that they are the best team or one of the best teams and that this is their opportunity to go out and win a Super Bowl. So to sit there on your hands and say, oh, we can live with Marquez Stevenson as the sort of emergency wide receiver if we need to, or we can go get guys like John Brown and Cole Beasley who have far more experience, far more production in this league, and maybe, just maybe, we're able to rekindle some of that old magic that they had when they were here last. I mean, that to me makes all the sense in the world to do that. But I really circled the slot thing because I think, look, Diggs has had more production in the slot this year than Isaiah, and Isaiah is your starting slot receiver. Now, Diggs is one of the best receivers in the league, so no matter where you put him, you're going to be able to get him the ball usually, and he's going to be productive. But I just think that they haven't got enough in what they projected that they were going to get from that position. And I do wonder, look, if you're Josh and you go to that well a few times in big spots and he doesn't make the play, is it human nature to just say, all right, next time on 3rd and 7, I'm just going to throw to Diggs or I'm going to run it myself, right? Rather than put the ball out for this receiver who, quite frankly, has let me down a couple of times. Now, do I want to be let down again, or do I have to keep saying, feed him, trust him, and hope it happens? I think he does that with Diggs. I think he does that with Dawson. I don't know that he does that with Isaiah.
All right, let's pivot quickly to Bills Dolphins. And, there's stats up and down the list, especially when you have two division teams seeing each other as often as these guys do. The one that blew me away, though, Mike, forget about Tua and the offense for Miami and the slump that they've been in the last 2 weeks. The defense, I can't explain this. It defies logic. At home, they're like the 3rd best defense in points allowed, like 15.4 points a game. On the road, they are the only team in football giving up more than 28.5 points a game. It's 31.4. Mike, it's double on the road. What the hell is going on with the Dolphins defense when they're not in Miami?
Yeah, what do we say, right? Like the cliche, but there's a reason for it, is good defenses travel, right? And their defense, for whatever reason, when they got the home cooking, they're all over the place and they're very difficult to score on. And when they go on the road, it doesn't match that same level of intensity and performance. I don't really know what that's all about, other than to say, like, look, they're maybe not as good as they've been at home. You know, they've had some issues generating pass rush. I think you go out and make the big trade for Bradley Chubb because, again, I think they see their window all of a sudden is right now as well. But I think Chubb is someone that they looked at and said, well, maybe he can win some one-on-one stuff. So we're in a 4-man pass rush, we can actually get home, versus we've had to generate so much of our pressure via the blitz. Yeah. So that I think is part of it, is they're just not getting enough from their pass rush, and it's sort of exposing them, because I've never been a big fan of their linebacker group. I think they can be taken advantage of. I think they have been taken advantage of. So that may be part of it as well. But yeah, look, I'm also curious, and no one wants to talk about the weather, or maybe you guys have talked about the weather ad nauseum, but like, they had heaters in LA for 55 degrees. What are we going to do when it's 20 and the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour and the snow's coming sideways? I mean, I keep getting these reports now, I'm starting to get a little nervous that I might be in Buffalo for about 10 days to 2 weeks by the time the storm finishes up on Saturday.
Yeah, we know how to move that stuff.
No, you'll be
you don't
right.
have to worry about that.
That is true. You guys are the best. There's no question about that.
Last one from me, Mike. Last couple of weeks, Tua has not looked like the MVP type caliber quarterback he did during their 5-game winning streak. What's up?
I'll tell you what's up. I think that the last couple of weeks, there's been some press coverage on the outside to disrupt the timing, and I think teams have looked at him and said he's feasting on the stuff between the numbers, right? And especially even between the hashes. And so they're flooding that area. I mean, he made a throw against the Chargers, and I think it was in the second quarter. He threw it to like 4 Chargers, and it ended up not being intercepted. But like, it was, dude, what are you even looking? There's no way that you might not see one of those guys. How do you not see 4? But their offense has been so predicated on passing and getting on getting rid of it quickly, right? And passing the ball over the middle, that when you do this, you could see his brain short circuiting a little bit. I think I heard that his 10 for 28 was the worst completion percentage for a Dolphins starting quarterback since 1980. They've had some bad quarterbacks. They had Marino, but then there's been a lot of bad quarterbacks around it. Yeah. That surprised me. McDaniel has done a nice job of finding answers prior to. I wonder what the counter is now, because if I'm the Bills, I'm looking at it the same way. I'm going to say, look, go ahead, throw the ball outside the numbers. And if you can do that and you beat us, we'll tip our hat to you. But by and large, let's not allow that to happen. And I think that's what the Chargers said definitely in that last game. Go ahead, try to throw the ball down the sideline. And he either wasn't willing to do it or he couldn't put the ball where it needed to be. So, Tuanon was taking victory laps for the last 10, 11 weeks. The last couple of weeks have really brought them down to earth. And we'll see what the answers are for Tua, what the answers are for McDaniel.
Mike Giardi from NFL Network. Thanks very much, Mike. We'll look forward to your contributions during the broadcast on Saturday night.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, guys. I'll have my snowsuit and all that. I'll be ready to go.
Thanks, Mike.
We pivot now to the numbers game, where we will test Steve on a stat that relates to drop percentage. It is quarterback on target percentage this season. A little bit of an esoteric stat, granted. But, Steve, I need you to name me 6 of the top 10 quarterbacks in on-target percentage. These are quarterbacks with the highest on-target throws per attempt, and we are not counting spikes or throwaways, just so you know. I don't know if that helps you at all, but we'll let it rip anyway.
I am like, you can blindfold me for this, because that's all right.
On-target percentage.
I'll say Tua.
Tua is tied for 5th, 78.3%.
I will say Aaron Rodgers.
Number 1, 80.5%.
I will say Tom Brady.
Brady just makes the cut, 77.1%. He is 10th.
I will say, what's the threshold for playing? I mean, is it just?
These are all starting quarterbacks.
All right, okay. I'll say Geno Smith.
Geno number 3, 79.1%.
I'm on a roll.
He's going to get comeback player of the year.
I'm going to get comeback guesser of the year for this stat, because last week I sucked. How many have I got left?
I only need 2 from you.
All right. I will say Mac Jones.
Oh, Steve, you jinxed yourself. You're on a roll, and then the hot streak ended. You should have just kept guessing.
I am guessing.
Well, you said, well, I'm about
Ryan
to.
Tannehill.
No. Man, you love Tannehill.
You never know. The guy might do something. Oh, I'm sorry, Mahomes.
Mahomes not on this list, no. He's got a lot of those.
Justin Herbert.
No.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow tied
All
for
right.
fifth with Tua
Okay.
at
Gosh, I
78.3%. I
That was
need
a
one
lull.
more from
That
you.
was a mid-season lull right there.
That was like week 8 and 9.
Oh, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, number 2, 79.7. That'll do it.
Brief
The
stumble there, but I came back.
You did come back strong. The only guys you did not get, number 9, Kyler Murray, 77.4. His season's done. Kirk Cousins at 8, 77.9%. Number 7, the old Dodger Matt Ryan, 78%. And number 4 on this list, not a lot of pass attempts, so take it with a grain of
Justin
salt.
Fields?
Daniel Jones.
Oh, Daniel Jones.
78.5%.
Okay.
For those wondering, Josh Allen, 17th in this category at 74.2%. Part 2 of the numbers game, Steve, deals with
Okay.
drops. Name me 6 of the top 10 quarterbacks who have been victimized by drops this season.
All right, here we go.
6 of the top 10, give me here.
Rodgers,
Rodgers tied for 3rd with 28.
Allen,
Josh Allen, top of the list with 31.
I'll say Matt Stafford,
Nope, not on this list.
Geno,
No. He's got 2 guys that can catch the
Kyler
ball
Murray.
now. No, Kyler Murray is not on this list either. Gino's got 2 guys that can pluck it, man. Lockett and Metcalf. Good.
I'll say some of these teams, I don't even know who to say is their starting. Like, who you going to say is Carolina's starting quarterback for the most of the season?
Well,
right?
None of those
How about
quarterbacks are on this list.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yes, number 9, 25 drops. You
that?
pulled that one out of
Boom,
left
diggity.
field. That's a good one.
Davis Mills.
No again. There are some pretty big names on this list. You'd be surprised.
Kenny Pickett.
That is not a big name I was looking for. I asked for a
You didn't have
big
to be like
name,
that.
and you gave me Kenny
I
Pickett.
was already
I'm trying to
honing
help
in.
you over here.
Yeah, Mahomes.
Yeah, thank you. He's 6th, 27 drops.
Lamar.
Lamar's tied for 7th, 26 drops.
Garoppolo.
No. Garoppolo.
Brady.
Brady's on here. Tied for 3rd, 28. That gives you 6.
All right.
The guys you did not get, Russell Wilson, 24 drops. He's 10th. Jared Goff is tied with Lamar Jackson, 26 drops. Trevor Lawrence tied for 3rd, 28 drops. And number 2 on this list, just behind Josh Allen, who leads this category, one Justin Herbert, 29 drops by his teammates. All right, not bad in the numbers game. Tua, by the way, 13th, 22 drops by his receivers this season. Who wants to win $1 million? I thought it might be you. Well, you can with FanDuel's free pick'em style game, high-low pick teams for 4 different stat categories that you think will score the highest or lowest for the week. The more you get right, the more you can win. Get them all correct, and you could take home $1 million. Just go to FanDuel.com/high-low to play. That is HILO. Steve, you've got the high and low for points
All right.
this week. Let us have it.
The Chiefs are going to Texas, the Houston Texans. They sleptwalked through a game with a really good defense in Denver last week.
Yeah.
They might hang a 50 burger on Houston.
Woo!
Chiefs for high in points, low in points. I'm taking one of my all-time favorites, your Chicago Bears. They're playing the number 1 passing defense in the league and the number 2 defense overall. The Bears are no match for the Philadelphia Eagles. Low for points is Chicago Bears.
All right, high for passing yards. I'm taking the Chargers against the struggling Tennessee Titans. Their injuries combined with the offseason talent drain has left the Titans defense vulnerable. LA finally has a healthy receiving core again. I think Justin Herbert can put up some big numbers. Low for passing yards. I'm taking the Giants. First of all, they don't pass it a whole lot to begin with. And Washington, very quietly, is a top 10 pass defense, Steve. The Commanders have a chance to pull ahead of New York with both teams at 7, 5-1 from their tie 2 weeks ago. I think they'll be supremely motivated. It starts with their defensive front, which I believe will neutralize the Giants' passing game.
All right, now I've got rushing yards. The high for rushing yards, I'm going to take the Eagles against the Bears once again. The Phillies, the number 2 rushing offense in all of football. Jalen Hurts is a big part of that. Bills fans know how good Josh Allen supplements their running attack, and they're going against the Bears. So their passing games makes the Bears stay light in the box.
Yeah.
The Eagles are going to run it up on those guys in rushing yards. Low for rushing yards, I'm taking the worst rushing offense in football, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Woo!
Long season for them. They've disappointed week in, week out on the ground, and they're facing the 11th-ranked run defense in the Cincinnati Bengals, who are trying to keep their foot on the gas in this game. I think low for rushing yards is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right, high for sacks. I'm taking the Broncos. They've got the Cardinals and new pocket quarterback Colt McCoy with Kyler Murray out for the season. Broncos defense has played a lot better than their bottom-feeding offense. So Denver high for sacks. Low for sacks, I feel good about the Bengals. Not expected to have top pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. They're playing Tampa Bay. Tom Brady, as we know, gets the ball out quick and usually doesn't take that many sacks. So I think Cincy will have trouble racking them up. So Bengals, low for sacks. Steve, we finish with our closing figure, and you wonder if this is one of the numbers that is factored into the decision for the Bills to sign some reinforcements for their passing game. All season long, the Bills have been a top offense in average yards per play on first down. They currently rank 3rd in the league, 6.21 yards per play. Miami, by the way, is tops in the NFL at 6.78 yards per play on first down. But over the last 4 weeks, Buffalo's offense ranks 17th in the NFL on first down. They've come down a full yard per play to 5.21 yards. Knowing the Bills have the 4th most pass attempts on first down this season, having greater execution on first down could certainly improve their offensive efficiency, Steve.
Plus, stop running it on first down at all. They got into a little bit of a run funk. I say funk. They were actually running the ball better over this last month, and we were talking about how effective it's been. You got to throw it on first down. They're good at it. It gives them that boost to stay ahead of the sticks, take easy completions on first down. If you can get Josh just to dunk it off, get good yards on first down, they'll be back in the top 10. They'll be back to where they were. But I think their propensity now, and you kind of get this thing where they're trying to lean more on the running game later in the season. Certainly conditions have something to do with it. But I think if the Bills go back to their bread and butter, let Josh drop back and throw some darts on first down, it's going to help them stay ahead of the sticks. Their third downs will improve. They'll get more first downs, and I think they'll be more productive. But I think their propensity to kind of lean more on the running game late in the season, like they did last year, has hurt them in this statistic.
In a way, it almost has kind of pulled them away from what their identity is.
Right.
It's all good. It's all well and good to be balanced and be able to turn to anything.
They're on a 4-game winning streak, too.
They are.
They
are. But as I said on our daily show, One Bills Live, I think there is an element of concern on the part of fans because they haven't seen the trademark explosiveness of this offense that they have become accustomed to seeing. And I think they're like, can we be reminded that we can still do that? I just want to see that. Just remind me that it's still possible.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it will be against the Dolphins defense that gives up more points on the road than any other in football. That'll do it for this edition of Bills by the Numbers. Be sure to subscribe on your podcast platform so you know when the next episode is out. And remember, when you need to know about the Bills, you need to check Bills by the Numbers. Thanks for watching, listening. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. We'll catch you next week, everybody.